Morning, I'm David Reimer with the Texas Storm Chasers. It's 10:08 on the 8th of June, 2021. We've got a little bit of spinning mischief ongoing this morning across portions of East Texas, so let's dive on into it. Let me get this stuff set up real quick. Again, we're going to be talking about is severe weather potential in East Texas. Most of the state this morning has not a thing going on. We've got some rain east of Del Rio. We've got some rain moving out of North Texas and East Texas. We have a single tornado warning. We had a report of a tornado a bit earlier near Tyler. I haven't seen a thing of that off that yet, so let's be abundantly clear on that. This storm currently exiting the city of Rusk, moving northeast up Highway 84 toward Reclaw. That actually does have a decent little circulation on it. So what I'm going to turn off all this stuff. I'm going to make sure I have the cities on. Then we'll turn on the high-res radar and we'll get a chatting about what's going on. So this is going to be a tornado warning for portions of Cherokee County until 10:15 this morning. About another 5 minutes. We'll see if the Weather Service ends up extending it. It's going to be for a storm now exiting the city of Rusk to the northeast. Get the radar data turned on here. You can see it's going to be with a storm moving up Highway 84 towards Reclaw. We're going to switch over to the which way the wind's blowing mode. Yeah, you can see we do have a bit of a circulation. Now, let's be abundantly clear here. This is not your typical springtime severe weather situation with supercellular tornadoes staying down for a long period of time. I think if we do have tornadoes this morning, they will be of the very brief and weak variety. That being said, if a brief, weak tornado manages to stay down for 15 or 20 seconds, a couple minutes, and it happens to come down your street and hit your trailer, hit your home, hit your business, it's not going to exactly be the greatest of days. So that's why we still want you to take a tornado warning seriously, even if we're not talking about long track significant tornadoes. So we do have a circulation showing up pretty decently on the Shreveport weather radar. It's going to be winds moving towards the radar at about 70 miles an hour, winds moving away about 20 to 30. So we've got a pretty decent circulation. This is going to be moving up Highway 84 towards Reclaw. This does include Highway 84. This includes Highway 204. Includes Highway 110 from Rusk all the way up past 204. Again, we'll have to see if the National Weather Service in Shreveport chooses to extend this tornado warning. I think they may, and if they do, that would put this tornado warning closer to Mount Enterprise. That being said, this storm is still way down the road from Mount Enterprise if it makes it there. So let me zoom on out. We'll show you what is going on in terms of storms. We've got a line of storms extending from Tyler to just west of Jacksonville, near Grapeland, Elkhart, to near Centerville. Those storms are not severe. They're producing some gusty winds, maybe 40 to 45 miles per hour. Heavy rainfall, cloud-to-ground lightning, street flooding's possible. The issue we are having is with some of these more isolated storms ahead of that thunderstorm complex. Low-level wind shear's a little bit enhanced this morning, and that's due to a mesoscale convective vortex, or an area of spin associated with these thunderstorms, the line of storms further west, that has helped to locally enhance wind shear just enough to squeak out a few brief tornadoes. Again, we're not talking about long-track significant tornadoes. I want to make that abundantly clear. We have a lot of tropical moisture in place, and sometimes when you have just enough low-level spin or stretching of the atmosphere, you end up dealing with these little brief tornadoes. I realize that folks are probably not too happy to be dealing with tornado warnings this morning, but you know what? I don't expect this to become a widespread issue. That being said, we do now have a new tornado warning that includes portions of Rusk and Cherokee counties in East Texas until 10:45 a.m. At 10:11 a.m., a severe thunderstorm is capable of producing a tornado near Ponta or just northeast of Rusk, moving northeast at 25 miles per hour. This dangerous storm will be near New Salem at 10:30, near Reclaw in about 10 to 15 minutes, so by 10:25. The storm, assuming continues moving northeast, it'll pass northeast of Reclaw, After about 1025, moving to areas roughly parallel or just north of Highway 84 between Reclaw or Reclaw and Mount Enterprise. The tornado warning polygon does not include Henderson, does not include Mount Enterprise, does not include New Summerfield, does not include Jacksonville, does not include Cushing. This is a tornado warning polygon. These warnings are not issued based off counties anymore. They haven't been for 15 years. They are issued based off the storm itself and the polygon downstream. So it includes small portions of counties. It doesn't include entire counties. It hasn't for 15 years. So we may have horns going off in, Cherokee and Rusk counties. But again, this is a tornado warning that includes small portions of these counties for circulation coming up Highway 84 northeast of Rusk towards Reclaw. And this could put down brief, weak tornadoes. That being said, you still got to respect them, because if it manages to drop a quick tornado and it hits your house, it's not going to be the greatest of days. It could take off your roof. So again, this is the only tornado warning we're dealing with in the state of Texas. This is not something we're expecting a lot of, not something we're expecting a high number of. This is a localized brief threat. So this storm's coming up on Reclaw. I just looked it up. Reclaw. Literally, I'm looking at pronunciation guide now, so anyone who wants to get mad at me, too bad. And this is going to be with a tropical shower with some low-level spin. Now, about 45 minutes to an hour ago, we had a brief report of a tornado on the northeast side of Tyler. I have yet to see pictures of this or any damage reports. In a tropical environment, it's not too uncommon to get areas of some low-level spin, maybe tropical funnel clouds. They don't usually touch the ground. Well, in this case, we've got a little extra spin associated with the thunderstorm complex coming in from the west. And apparently that's providing just enough low-level spin or low-level vorticity or stretching of the atmosphere to allow for a few quick, brief tornadoes. Not expecting long-track tornadoes or the kind that can level your house. But at the same time, you don't want to take them lightly either, because if one of these manages to touch down and come down your street, it could take your roof off. So we're going to have to keep an eye on that for sure. And I mean, there's plenty of trees out here. It could easily knock some trees down, block roads, etc. So we're going to have to keep an eye out for little areas of circulation this morning. We note one such circulation a few miles southwest of Reclaw, coming up Highway 84 towards Reclaw. Another little area between New Summerfield, north of Reclaw. Watching a couple areas of enhanced wind, maybe some low-level rotation west of Henderson. Again, these aren't your typical springtime supercellular thunderstorms. These are, frankly, tropical showers, tropical thunderstorms that just so happen to be in an area with a little extra spin. So that's what's going on here. And I realize first thing you may hear is tornado warning. You're freaking out, but understand we're not dealing with long track, angry tornadoes that are going to level your house. We're dealing with situations that could produce brief tornadoes or funnel clouds that could knock some trees down, maybe take a roof off your house if it manages to hit your house, which we obviously don't want. Otherwise, we've got a line of storms. They're not severe. They're producing some gusty winds, and given the fact soils are saturated, those winds may be strong enough to take down a few dead trees and uproot them, extending from just east of Tyler, coming up on Troop, coming up into Jacksonville, Rusk, west of Alto on Highway 294, Grapeland, coming up on Highway 7 between Centerville and Crockett. Again, heavy rainfall could cause street flooding. Some gusty winds, 40 to 45 miles an hour, that could uproot some dead trees given the saturated soils, and a lot of lightning. I mean, it's June. This is fairly typical in terms of the stuff we can see during the summertime with northwesterly winds aloft. You can see Arkansas is just having a bad day. They've got flooding out the wazoo right now, all the way from Little Rock to Hot Springs, all the way to Idabel in southeast Oklahoma. It's just not a good time right now in Arkansas, but, well, it's Arkansas, so. Otherwise, I mean, we're dealing with some of these pesky little isolated storms that have fired up ahead of this little squall line coming into East Texas. And some of these are, I guess, in an environment with just enough low-level spin to put down brief tornadoes. So that is why we are here, and you're going to look at Baldy in Chief here at 10:19 in the morning on the 8th of June. I'm David Reimer. We had a brief tornado reported about an hour ago on the northeast side of Tyler. I haven't seen any damage reports. I haven't seen any visual evidence to support this, but given the enhanced low-level vorticity, low-level spin, and, I mean, it's not uncommon, per se. Well, let me rephrase that. It's not common, but it's not unheard of. So, looks like a 911 caller reported a brief tornado along Highway 84 west of Reclaw at 10:10 a.m. So this storm is certainly capable of putting down very brief tornadoes as it continues to trek towards Reclaw on Highway 84. It'll be in Reclaw in the next 5 minutes. It's 10:20 now. Should be in town by 10:25 as it moves northeast at 25 miles an hour. This is not your typical springtime supercellular severe weather setup. This is a tropical situation. We have a lot of tropical moisture, and we have a little bit of low-level spin available for these storms, and given the abundant moisture in place, apparently some of these discrete storms are putting down brief, weak tornadoes. We're looking at which way the winds are spinning, and we're not necessarily looking for the reds and greens coming together. What we're looking for is enhanced areas of wind showing up on radar in conjunction with or opposite of weaker areas of wind. We're not looking at the storm relative velocity product, we're looking at the base velocity. So in this case, this is more useful in tropical situations. You can see we've got winds showing up about 60 to 65 miles an hour with circulation coming into Reclaw. Same thing with the storms near Henderson. You see how we've got some stronger winds about 50 to 55 miles an hour right next to an area of very weak looking velocity returns. That's an area of some tropical spin. Could put down a brief, weak tornado. Again, I think you can understand by the demeanor I'm using here, this is not something where I think we're going to have tornadoes down for a long period of time, or the kind of tornadoes that are going to level a house. That being said, it's certainly capable of, if we do get brief tornadoes and it comes down your street, unfortunately, they're capable of taking your roof off, knocking trees down, etc. So you definitely still need to take it seriously and take your proper tornado safety precautions. And for a tropical situation, this is a pretty good little circulation coming up on Reclaw right now, about to cross over Highway 204, very near Highway 84 in Reclaw. So if you're in Reclaw, you need to be in shelter. That's going to be the lowest floor, center room. We want you away from windows. Put as many walls between you and the outside as possible. This is a situation where we don't want anybody near a window or near something that could be impacted by flying debris, tree limbs, etc. And this isn't a situation where I'd expect to see a debris signature on radar. In order to get a tornado debris signature, you have to have a tornado down, obviously, and it has to be strong enough to loft debris to the height of the radar beam, which requires a tornado to be down for more than 10 seconds, and for the tornado to be strong enough, or the rotation to be strong enough, to loft the debris. And in this case, we're looking at about 5,500 feet above the surface. I don't expect to see a tornado debris signature, but we've got folks on the ground reporting that this storm has been intermittently producing very brief, weak tornadoes. So if you're in Reclaw, you should have been in shelter when the warning was initially issued over 20 minutes ago now. And this storm will continue moving northeast at 25 miles an hour. It'll be out of Reclaw here in the next few minutes and continuing moving up Highway 84. Eventually, down the road, it may pass north of Mount Enterprise, crossing Highway 259 around 11 a.m. Now, let's take a look at this little cell coming into Henderson. A lot of cloud-to-ground lightning, some heavy rain, and we do notice a little bit of spin showing up now on the radar, about 50 to 55 miles an hour of velocity showing up. And again, this isn't your typical situation in the spring where we're looking for the bright greens against the bright reds. While that still technically applies, in this case, we're just looking for enhanced areas of wind opposite of a minimum. Because that'll allow us to see where we at least have some enhanced wind going on, and that often in tropical situations will result in stronger low-level rotation. Again, these don't look anything like your typical springtime supercells. These are guard thunderstorms. They just so happen to have a little bit of low-level spin available to them this morning. And by this morning, I mean literally this is a few-hour issue. We'll probably be fine by this afternoon. But those of you in Henderson, don't be surprised if a tornado warning ends up being issued for the possibility of very brief, weak tornadoes with this little cell moving northeast at about 25 miles an hour. Those of you in Henderson, if you looked west right now, you'd probably see a relatively low wall cloud with some clouds rising up into it. That's called rising scud. And clouds are just moisture in the air that has condensed. There's a lot of moisture in the air, so it's not difficult at all to get rising scud or those scary looking clouds. So that's what we're going to have to keep an eye on. I think you can tell by my demeanor this isn't a super duper crazy severe weather setup. This is a situation where some of these little beams ahead of this sub-severe squall line out to the west are in an area that is capable of supporting some brief weak tornadoes. So that's what we have going on right now. We've got a tornado warning that continues until 10:45 a.m. for southwestern Rusk County and eastern Cherokee County in East Texas. The potential for a brief tornado near Reclaw right now, moving northeast at 25 miles an hour up roughly near or a bit north of Highway 84. This storm should pass just northwest of Mount Enterprise, crossing over Highway 259 at 11 a.m. In addition to the potential for brief tornado, this storm's producing a lot of cloud-to-ground lightning and very heavy rainfall. Same thing with these storms further west. This little line of storms is producing gusty winds, 40 to 45 miles an hour, heavy rain, cloud-to-ground lightning. Well, some cloud-to-ground lightning. Frankly, a lot of these aren't even producing cloud-to-ground lightning. So tropical downpours could cause street flooding, though gusty winds, 40, maybe 45 miles an hour in spots, could uproot some dead trees. Soils are saturated, so even sub-severe winds of 40, 45 miles an hour might be strong enough to uproot or knock over some of the dead trees. And that line of storms, well, tropical showers, frankly, extends from near Winona, east to Tyler, to Troop, coming up on ARP, exiting Jacksonville to the east on Highway 79, coming into New Summerfield. You're about to get a downpour. It's pouring rain right now in Rusk, pouring rain in Grapeland, pouring rain on Highway 7 between Crockett and Centerville. We've got some lighter rain still ongoing across portions of southeastern North Texas. You note we have a flash flood warning for places like Mexia, or Mexia. I believe it's Mexia, though. I'm going to look. I am actually going to make sure. I'm not going to go away from this until we look. Mexia, I was right the first time. Up Highway 14 to Richland, Interstate 45. Again, we've had a lot of rain over the last few weeks, so these heavy downpours are enough to produce some heavy rain. These downpours are enough to produce some street flooding, quick rises on streams and creeks. Obviously, if it's a downpour, it's heavy rain, thus making my point moot. We'll turn on satellite real quick across the state of Texas. What I'm going to do real quick, I'm going to turn off the local radar. What you're looking at is a product that not only looks at your visible satellite, but also takes a look at how cold the clouds are aloft. Your reds, yellows, and darker reds, those are just colder cloud tops. They're higher up in the atmosphere. That's not where it's raining right now necessarily. It's just a good look at what clouds are colder, more organized, etc. We've got some clouds still across North Texas, but otherwise, the only rain we have right now is in southeastern North Texas and then East Texas. The rest of the state is pretty much dry this morning, with the exception of some light rain in the Edwards Plateau east of Del Rio. We've got mostly clear skies across the Panhandle, West Texas, the Permian Basin. We've had some fog overnight in portions of the state. We're transitioning into a true summertime pattern. This is going to be one of the last days we have to deal with these thunderstorm complexes overnight into the morning. By Thursday, Friday, parts of the state are going to be over 100 degrees. Most of us will be in the 90s at least, with heat index values well over 100 degrees. A summertime pattern, what you'd expect in June. So, those of you who wanted the rain to stop, it's about to stop. Now we have to deal with the humidity with all the saturated soils. So, okay, let's go back and look at the velocity. We're here this morning because a tornado warning for portions of Cherokee and Rusk counties in East Texas. The circulation with this thunderstorm or tropical shower is now northeast of Reclaw by 2 to 3 miles, moving up Highway 84. Should pass north of Mount Enterprise at about 11 a.m. on Highway 259. Again, these are not long-lived significant tornadoes. These are brief spin-ups in a moist tropical environment that just so happens to have a little extra low-level spin this morning. The circulation over the last few minutes has weakened compared to what it looked like a few minutes ago. In fact, let me see if well, now we'll just stick with this. So, if the weakening trend continues, and hopefully it will, we may be able to get rid of this tornado warning by 10:45. That's the hope. But again, we'll have to keep an eye on these little cells across East Texas this morning until they exit the state to the east around lunchtime. This little cell near Henderson showed a little bit of spin earlier. That's not as evident now. Same thing with the cell coming up Highway 84 northeast of Reclaw. All right, looks like National Weather Service in Shreveport has issued a severe thunderstorm warning for this little squall line of tropical showers with a few lightning strikes. It's going to be a pretty large severe thunderstorm warning that includes portions of Panola, Rusk, Nacogdoches, and Cherokee counties in East Texas. At 10:29 a.m., severe storms were located along a line extending from near Troop to near Rusk to 7 miles southwest of Morill, moving east at 45 miles per hour. That's this little tropical line of showers right here. These storms are capable of producing small hail. We're not expecting big hail. Maybe some 50 to 60 mile an hour wind gusts in a few spots. And we'll have to keep an eye out for a brief tornado or two. So, line of storms should be moving into Alto at 10:37, Reclaw 10:41, Cushing 10:51, Mount Enterprise 11:02, Nacogdoches 11:08, Appleby 11:11, my favorite time of day, Garrison 11:18 this morning, Tipson at 11:25, and Gary 11:26. So some tropical downpours, gusty winds, 40, 50, maybe 60 miles an hour. That's enough to uproot some trees, especially dead trees that didn't survive this winter. Could knock some tree limbs down into roads, etc. And we'll have to keep an eye out for a quick tornado spin-up. But again, we're not expecting long-lived, nasty tornadoes. But given the fact soils are so saturated, so wet, unfortunately, it won't take very strong winds to uproot trees, knock down trees, especially trees that didn't survive this past winter. So we're going to have to keep an eye out for that. We'll also have to keep an eye out for street flooding. These storms are putting down a quick 1 to 3 inches of rain, even though they are moving at a decent speed. So that's what the little line of tropical showers with occasional lightning strikes from near Troop, east of Rusk, coming up on Alto. And then we've got these little individual tropical showers that are trying to show intermittent low-level rotation, and apparently that's been strong enough, or enough this morning to produce quick little brief tornadoes. A little bit stronger rotation showing up with this tropical shower now, several miles northeast of Reclaw. That's moving northeast at 25 miles an hour. Should be crossing Highway 259 a few miles northwest of Mount Enterprise in about 25 minutes, around 11 a.m. So again, these are not storms that are producing long track significant tornadoes. These are not storms that are putting tornadoes down for long periods of time. These are storms that are capable of producing little, I say little, brief, generally weak tornadoes that can knock some trees down, maybe take a roof off a building. Damaging straight line winds capable of uprooting some trees, knocking tree limbs down, etc. And of course, all this heavy rain will cause a quick rise on creeks, streams, and result in the potential for some road closures, given the fact we've got a lot of moisture already in the ground. And I mean, honestly, besides that, yeah, we've got this line of storms. The rest of the state's quiet this morning. And if you want, you can keep an eye on the sky with our interactive weather radar on our website, texasstormchasers.com/radar, and in our free mobile app. We're here this morning because we've made a commitment to try and cover every tornado warning in the state of Texas this spring and this summer. We weren't here for the one about an hour ago on the northeast side of Tyler. I'll admit, that one snuck up pretty quick. Again, nature of these storms or tropical showers, they can produce brief, weak tornadoes at times. So we're here now. Sorry we weren't here a bit earlier, but this wasn't exactly something that was overly implicit. We'll switch back over to the which way the wind is blowing mode. And again, we've got a little circulation, which apparently has been enough with these showers this morning. North of Highway 84, probably 7 or 8 miles northeast of Reclaw, moving towards Highway 259, should pass well northwest of Mount Enterprise, unless the storm or tropical shower takes a bit of a right turn. Regardless, we'll likely know sooner than later if the National Weather Service in Shreveport chooses to extend the tornado warning past its current expiration time and area. We note a severe thunderstorm warning includes several counties in East Texas, Panola, Rusk, Nacogdoches, and Cherokee. And that's with this line of tropical showers and occasional thunderstorms capable of producing some 50, 60 mile an hour straight line winds and brief, weak tornadoes that could knock some trees down, uproot trees, all the sort of stuff that happens when you have saturated soils, some gusty winds, and, I mean, obviously we've got a plethora of dead trees after the winter we had, so that is why we're here. And these storms are also producing very heavy rain, a quick 1 to 3 inches of rain that could cause flash flooding. And that is why we are here this morning. And I think you can tell by my demeanor that while we do respect tornado warnings, these are not the long track, nasty type tornadoes we dealt with back in March, April, or May. These are little brief weak tornadoes that are somewhat difficult to pinpoint ahead of time. That could kind of sneak up on you. But we're here, we're keeping an eye on things. So, let me make sure links work. I'm just checking on what is going on. And in case you're wondering, those of you might be asking, why are we dealing with these little weak spin-ups this morning? This line of thunderstorms coming in from the west generated what's called a Mesoscale Convective Vortex, or an MCV. It's essentially its own area of low pressure that can sometimes develop in longer-lived thunderstorm complexes. This line of storms originated in eastern New Mexico last night. We have northwesterly winds aloft about 30 miles an hour that push the storm southeast, and sometimes they develop their own little area of low pressure. And in this case, where we've got little individual tropical storms that have popped up ahead of the squall line, there's just enough low-level wind shear to squeak out quick tornadoes. There's a lot of tropical moisture in place too, so cloud bases are low. You can get these brief, weak spin-ups sometimes. I mean, most days, usually we don't, obviously, but in this case we are. So this is not expected to be a widespread issue or a issue we have to deal with into the afternoon. These line of storms moving east, once they're out of the picture here by lunchtime, hopefully, we'll be done with it. And it'll just be hot and humid. We might see some pop-up storms this afternoon, but those would be the tropical variety that you expect during hot days in the afternoons in East Texas during the summer. And obviously, those can produce dangerous cloud-to-ground lightning and heavy rain. When thunder roars, go indoors. Don't turn into a fried skunk. That is my motto of the day. Alright, so what I'm doing now, I'm just keeping an eye on things. I'm looking at various sources of data. It's just me, myself, and I here, so sometimes I have to do a little bit of data mining to make sure I maintain situational awareness. And that is exactly what I'm doing right now. What I'm going to do real quick, I'm going to turn off all this data. I don't think I've done this before. What I'm going to do is I'm going to turn a product on. This is called this is called storm relative helicity for the lowest 3 kilometers of the atmosphere. These shaded areas you see here are values that are supportive of organized rotating thunderstorms, or showers in this case. The values you see back over DFW, those are behind a line of storms currently moving east. So obviously we don't have to worry about that. It's where we got these little discrete storms and a line of storms themselves that are moving into an area of some spin in the atmosphere, hence the more organized storm mode. As we look at, and that's the lowest 3 kilometers of the atmosphere, so the first few thousand feet, maybe up to 9,000 feet. As we look at surface-based instability, these values indicate an unstable air mass, the oranges, the reds, etc. I mean, it's June in Texas, the dew points are in the 70s, it's probably in the 80s ahead of this line of storms. There's plenty of juice to support the storms. You can see lower instability values back over the Metroplex, the Hill Country, where this line of storms has already progressed. You can see where these storms have been, essentially, by the lack of instability. So as these storms continue moving east into an unstable air mass and a bit of upper level support, they'll probably keep on going. So that doesn't necessarily mean we're going to be dealing with a lot of spinny issues. It just means we're going to have to keep an eye on any of these little storms ahead of the squall line that managed to develop over the next hour and a half, until the storms or tropical showers make it out of the state. And we do indeed have to keep an eye on some of these. Let's switch back over to the which way the wind is blowing mode. And you can see, yeah, we've got a little bit of a circulation about halfway between Mount Enterprise and Reclaw, near or just north of Highway 84. This storm's moving northeast at about 25 miles per hour. A line of storms coming in from the west is moving east at about 45 miles an hour. So that line is about to overtake and ingest, a nice way of saying nom nom or eat, on the little discrete storm. So hopefully that takes care of the issue with that discrete storm trying to put down brief tornadoes. That being said, this whole line is capable of producing gusty winds of 40 to 50, maybe even 60 miles per hour in a few spots. Soils are wet, soils are saturated. It will not take a lot of wind to cause trees to get uprooted or knocked down, especially trees that didn't survive this past winter. So keep an eye out for that, and keep an eye out if you're out and about driving after these storms roll through, just in case one of those trees manages to fall on a roadway. So the tornado warning east of Reclaw, west of Mount Enterprise, expires in 2 minutes. We'll see if the National Weather Service chooses to extend that tornado warning. This storm itself is about to be eaten by this little line of storms moving east more quickly. These discrete little showers are moving northeast at about 25 miles an hour. The line itself is moving east at about 45 miles an hour. So, here, I'll loop it for you. Just over the last half hour. You can see little storms moving slower than the line of storms. So, we'll see if the warning is extended or not. And as we switch back over to the which way the winds blow mode, it might be extended, to be honest. That circulation has intensified again over the past couple of minutes. You can see, oh, there we go, winds above 60 miles an hour showing up, which in today's environment are supportive of producing a brief, weak tornado. So we do now have a new tornado warning that goes until 11:15 a.m. for southwestern Rusk County. In East Texas, we've got tornado warning that now does include, technically, the city of Mount Enterprise, Glen Fawn, Laneville, and Minden. This is with a tropical shower capable of producing brief tornadoes moving northeast at about, well, let's see, still 25 miles an hour. The storm should be crossing over Highway 259 in 15 to 20 minutes near or north of Mount Enterprise. Mount Enterprise, I think you being included on the southern edge of this polygon is more of a covered the backside situation versus a likelihood of the storm making it into town. You're still going to get a storm, mind you, Mount Enterprise, but the rotational portion of this little bean ahead of the squall line, that was scary, should stay just north of Mount Enterprise. But that being said, you're in the polygon. You got to respect the polygon. So tornado warning for portions of Rusk County until 11:15, including Mount Enterprise, includes Minden, includes Laneville, Glen Fawn. It's going to be with a little tropical bean or cell moving northeast, capable of producing a brief, weak tornado. We're not dealing with long track tornadoes. We're not dealing with situations where we expect many tornadoes. It's just we got a lot of tropical moisture. We have a little bit of low-level wind shear this morning with storms moving through. So, I mean, regardless of if it's some damaging straight line winds or a brief weak tornado, both would result in the same thing. Knock some trees down, uproot some trees that could fall on roads or houses or structures or buildings, etc. You get the point. Soils are saturated, soils are wet. You could probably dig up a clump of mud at this point, squeeze out all the water, and it'd be 90% water. But that's another way of saying the roots that hold trees down, not as efficient when the soils are literally flooding water. So it's easier to uproot trees right now. And yeah, this storm is showing a decent area of little rotation as we switch over to the which way the wind's blowing mode. This is not a screaming circulation in terms of what we'd be looking for in the spring months, but in a tropical situation where we have a lot of tropical moisture, yeah, this is enough to produce a quick tornado. So we've got winds moving away from the radar in Shreveport, about 20, winds moving towards the radar at about 30, a 50 mile per hour circulation, which again, in a tropical situation, yeah, it's enough to put down a quick tornado. I don't think it'd be down for very long. I don't think it'd be particularly strong. But hey, if it came down your street, it could take the roof off your building, could knock down trees, which honestly might do more damage if they fall on your building. So you still want to take it seriously. Those of you in Mount Enterprise, you're in this tornado warning. Those of you in Minden, those of you in Glen Fawn and Laneville, you're in this tornado warning, so you take it seriously. This won't last very long. Warnings until 11:15. Hopefully, as this little line of storms comes on in and numbs on the little discrete storm and eats it, the circulation in the storm itself will quit being spinny, and we can get on with our day, right? Because I know everyone loves looking at Baldy in Chief or the Weather Leprechaun at 10:30 in the morning on a weekday. I know I don't like looking at myself this early in the morning. I say this early in the morning, but when it's severe weather coverage, not usually doing it at 10:45 in the morning most days. So, I mean, I guess it could be a bit of practice for when we get into the big spinny phase of the year, which is the tropical season. So, I'll say this line of storms, we're lucky this isn't moving out into the Gulf of Mexico, because if it did, I wouldn't be shocked if it spun up into a homegrown tropical depression or tropical storm. But fortunately, it is inland, and we're not going to have to worry about that here in Texas. You always have to be mindful of these thunderstorm complexes that move out into the Gulf of Mexico and manage to quickly develop into a tropical depression or tropical storm. But none of that today, thank you. So, again, we're here because a tornado warning that includes the city of Mount Enterprise, includes Highway 259 southeast of Henderson. Henderson, you are not in this tornado warning. Let's make that perfectly clear. This tornado warning does not include Henderson. Reclaw, you're clear. Reclaw, you already had gusty winds from 2 different storms. You're good to go. It's still raining. You probably got street flooding. You're good to go. No more tornadoes for you today. And hopefully by today, I mean for the rest of the summer. Otherwise, we've got a tornado warning. This will cross Mount Enterprise. I'm about to sneeze. If I sneeze, I'm going to mute it before I do so I don't blow your speakers out. But it's going to be one of those sneezes that doesn't actually let you sneeze, but it just keeps you awkwardly standing there thinking you have to sneeze. I'm good at digressing today. What can I say? I need coffee. So this will be a circulation that is... Here, let's pull up the little super-duper tool. It's going to be about 7 to 6 miles southwest of Highway 259, or about 7 to 8 miles northwest of Mount Enterprise. Assuming this continues moving northeast, I would expect this circulation to stay north of Mount Enterprise. We'll keep an eye on it, but again, you can kind of actually see a bit of an inflow notch. Again, not your classic springtime supercell. This is tropical mischief. You can see inflow going in right there. Kind of have a little rear flank downdraft showing up here. Little baby hook. Look at the wind velocity, and yeah, it's pretty much what's going on. Green's moving towards the radar, red's moving away. Your circulation, not screaming strong, but again, enough in this environment this morning to apparently produce a brief, weak tornado. What we're looking at coming in from the west is the line of storms. The line of storms is moving about double the speed of these little individual storms. So line of storms eventually overtakes little baby storms. Baby storms get ingested into the line. Hopefully that means baby storms quit throwing tantrums and trying to spin out little baby tornadoes. That was an interesting way to describe that. I'm okay with it though. But if you want to keep an eye on the storms or tropical showers, they have to technically produce lightning to be considered thunderstorms. Some of these are just tropical showers that are spinning. You can do so with the interactive weather radar on our website at texasstormchasers.com/radar and in our free mobile app. But we are here because of a tornado warning. And back earlier this year, we said we wanted to try and do live coverage for any tornado warnings in the state of Texas. And we've done decent this year. We're not perfect. No one's perfect, but, you know, we are literally a few days from being done with springtime weather. Circulation actually is looking decent on this latest scan here. Winds moving towards the radar at about 25 to 30. Winds moving away about 25 to 30. It's a little stronger than the last scan, so this cell could still put down a quick, brief tornado. About 7 to 6 miles, 6 to 7 miles west-northwest of Mount Enterprise as it moves towards Highway 259 over the next 10 to 15 minutes, should pass north of Mount Enterprise. We've got other storms, a line, capable of producing some strong winds that could uproot trees, knock some trees down, cause street flooding. That'll be coming into Mount Enterprise pretty soon here as well. In fact, we've got storms farther north, too. Got a severe thunderstorm warning that now includes the city of Longview, Lakeport, Hallsville, Tatum, Beckville, Henderson, New London, Kilgore. These storms are capable of producing damaging straight-line winds that could uproot some trees, knock some trees down, block roads, etc. And again, we'll have to keep an eye out for brief, weak tornadoes. This is not a situation where I can accurately tell you, hey, the tornado's here, because, one, signatures within the squall line, especially on days like this where we're not expecting overly long-lived long-lived rotation, they can literally pop up, put a brief tornado down that's down for 10 seconds and literally be gone. And that whole process takes 45 seconds. So, again, respect these storms as they come in. They may not even have lightning, so they may just be tropical showers, but they can have gusty winds, soils are saturated, knock some trees down, uproot some trees, put down a quick 1 to 3 inches of rain that could cause street flooding. The only tornado warning we have right now is with the storm about 5 to 6 miles northwest of Mount Enterprise, moving northeast at 25 miles an hour. This storm's in the process of being absorbed by the squall line coming in from the west, about twice the speed the discrete storm was moving. So hopefully, as that happens over the next 5 to 10 minutes, little discrete baby storm will go bye-bye, and we can move on with our day. But again, winds 40, 50, maybe even 60 miles an hour coming into places like Longview, Beckville, probably Carthage, Mount Enterprise, Appleby, Nacogdoches over the next 30 to 45 minutes. Could uproot trees, could knock trees down, knock down tree limbs, cause flooding. So, it won't be a great time to be out driving, that's what I'm trying to say. These are not your classic springtime storms. It's summer. There's a lot of moisture in the air. Obviously, you step outside, the humidity is atrocious, and it's going to stay that way probably through October. Sorry. But we'll still have to keep an eye on it. Again, we could see a few brief tornadoes spin up on the leading edge of this line of showers and thunderstorms as it moves northeast at about 45 miles an hour until it gets into Louisiana, and that's just the nature of the game. With tropical moisture in place, we've also got a little bit of extra spin in the low levels of the atmosphere this morning, so that is the name of the game. We're just keeping an eye on this storm northwest of Mount Enterprise. Tornado warning does technically continue for the city of Mount Enterprise until 11:15 a.m. Same thing goes for Minden, Laneville, Glenfawn, as this storm can still put down a brief weak tornado as it moves northeast to 25 miles an hour. Let's go ahead, we'll zoom out. We'll take a look at the entire state of Texas this morning. I'm going to clear out all this data real quick. We'll pop on satellite. We'll pop on the radar. We'll pop on the warnings. And I'm going to loop this to 6 hours so you can see what's been going on this morning. Loop's going to take a minute to load. As it does that, I'm going to drink some water. You can see the storms actually originated last evening in eastern New Mexico, moved across the Panhandle, West Texas, turned a bit southeast. You can see the outflow boundary, that's that leading edge of the green line there, moving south into the hill country, the Edwards Plateau. Storms. The only storms that managed to keep on going throughout this whole process managed to move through North Texas, and then after the sun came up, they began to organize again as the atmosphere destabilized, and that's what we're dealing with this morning. Sometimes it's nice to just look at satellite image loops and enjoy the wonder of it all. I mean, for most of the state, excluding portions of East Texas, it's pretty nice late this morning. Rain that was falling earlier in the Metroplex up in North Texas is cleared out. Clouds will be clearing out too pretty quickly. You can see that already occurring. It's going to be a hot one too. Let's see if I can pop on surface temperatures real quick. You can see, I mean, it's already in almost 90 degrees in Houston. I'll pop on the heat index. The heat index in Houston's 96 degrees. Not a surprise in June. Heat index in Corpus Christi is already in the triple digits. Looks like that is, we'll zoom on in, 100 degrees. Heat index in Beeville is already 108 this morning with a dew point of 82. Yeah, Welcome to summer, folks. That's what all the state's going to be dealing with here by the end of the week as we shut off the faucet and switch into humid summer mode. But let's go ahead and turn all that back off. We'll turn off all of the extra data. Weather warnings back on. We'll turn on the high-res weather radar. We'll zoom back into our single tornado warning. So with this circulation about 5 to 6 miles northwest of Mount Enterprise, good news is it has broadened out. It looks weaker than it did 5 minutes ago. The storm itself is being eaten by the squall line, which hopefully means over the next 5 to 10 minutes, the circulation will dissipate and we can get this tornado warning canceled early and continue on with our day. You note this little bow segment here, southwest of Mount Enterprise, northeast of Cushing. That's a little interesting to me. Probably a pretty good surge of wind, maybe over 60 miles an hour with that. I could be in Mount Enterprise in the next 10 minutes, could knock down, uproot trees, knock down tree limbs, etc. Uprooted trees can fall on buildings. Potential for very heavy rain that could cause some street flooding too. So overall, I think the tornado threat, at least with these little beams ahead of the squall line, is decreasing. We're going to have to keep an eye out on the squall line itself for areas of damaging straight line winds that could knock down trees, uproot trees, especially since soils are saturated. So frankly, it won't even take winds that strong to cause some trees to get uprooted. And we can't rule out a brief tornado or two, but again, this is not a spring situation where we're expecting long-lived, nasty tornadoes. It's the situation where we're more concerned about straight-line winds over a large area with maybe a brief weak tornado or two in the squall line that could produce damage similar to that of the straight-line winds. Frankly, it doesn't matter if it's a brief tornado this morning or straight-line winds. Both can produce the exact same kind of damage. Knock down trees, uproot trees, trees fall over on buildings. That would cause more damage than a weak tornado hitting your building this morning, probably. So that we're going to have to keep an eye out on, along with the potential for street flooding. Winds over 60 miles an hour associated with a little Boeing line segment moving into Mount Enterprise over the next 5 to 10 minutes. I'd get away from windows, especially west-facing windows. Could have some flying tree limbs in Mount Enterprise within 5 minutes. We've got heavy rain, some strong winds moving towards Rolling Meadows in Kilgore right now, riding down Highway 80 east of Gladewater, moving towards Longview. And all these showers and storms are producing very heavy rain that'll likely cause street flood in a hurry, perhaps some quick rises on area streams, creeks, and then eventually rivers. And then as we move up into Arkansas, I'll turn off the radar. All these green boxes, those are flash flood warnings. Arkansas, northern Mississippi, southeastern Oklahoma, they're not having a good day. They're flooding a lot. So if you're heading up into Arkansas, southeast Oklahoma, northern Mississippi, heads up, it's flooding. So I wouldn't actually go up there today. Not a great day to drive up there. So the only reason we're still here, and you're getting to look at Baldy in Chief or the Weather Leprechaun, whatever your favorite nickname is this morning, is this tornado warning that'll hopefully be out of the picture sooner rather than later, just northwest of Mount Enterprise. The circulation itself is pretty much gone. I'm more concerned about the damaging winds moving into Mount Enterprise now. Could knock down trees, uproot trees, cause wind damage. And same thing goes for storms moving into Longview, Henderson, Mount Enterprise, Appleby, Nacogdoches. And these storms will continue moving east towards Louisiana over the next hour. Are moving east at about, well, this southern line segment's moving east at about 45 miles an hour. Present rate of speed, it'll be in center at 1147, Gary 1131, Tipson 1129, Garrison 1122, Nacogdoches 1115, Logansport noon. Don't be on a body of water. Don't be on a lake when these storms come in. That is not a good idea. So what we're going to do now is, unless we see a sudden resurgence with this circulation, I think it is safe to say we're not going to have a new tornado warning issued with this storm. we're going to go ahead and quit doing wall-to-wall coverage and let y'all keep an eye on the storms with the interactive weather radar on our website, texasstormchasers.com/radar, and in our free mobile app. We'll be posting updates on our digital media platforms as well. So I'm David Reimer with the Texas Storm Chasers. Thanks for joining us this morning. Hopefully you haven't been directly impacted by any of this nasty weather, but the good news is it'll be clearing out here shortly, and we'll be in for a hot and humid day and end of the week. So we'll keep an eye on things. We'll come back if necessary. Otherwise, apparently my head is the only thing in the frame. Wonder how long that's been, but hey, now you know why I'm called Baldy in Chief. So we'll keep an eye on things. We'll be back if necessary. Otherwise, thank you for joining us. Stay weather aware as always. Have a great rest of your day.